o'clock, so we got to
Yeah,
start.
okay.
I'm going to call it's 7 o'clock. I'm going to call the meeting of the Middleton Plan Commission for Tuesday, May 10th, 2022 to order. And the first item is the roll call. Abby.
Bruce,
Here?
Erdman Hermans,
Here.
Ramsey.
Here.
Schaefer,
Here.
Slavish,
Here.
and Brar is present. All members are present.
Okay. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from April 26, 2022. Need a motion to approve.
Ramsey, move approval.
All right, I need a second.
Schaefer seconds.
All right, and any questions or comments or changes? All those in favor of the approving the minutes for the Plan Commission for April 26, 2022 to say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes. We are on to agenda item number one. It's going to be a big one. This is a concept review for apartment building, Bruce Company Residence Phase 1, 2830 Parmenter Street, and it's A5. Who is going to, do we have a?
We have Jake Buns here, Mayor, with T-Wall Enterprises. They are requesting feedback on the 99 unit building concept that is in their submittal. And our review is that the proposed building and site plan appear to be very consistent with the approved GIP. And I would suggest you turn it over to him.
All right, Jake, it's all yours. Jake,
Yeah, thank you. And Mark or Abby, I don't know who's running the screen, but do you mind if I take over? There we go. Yeah, so just a little background on the Bruce Company redevelopment, just to refresh everybody. So this is the approved general implementation plan. Tonight we're just seeking feedback on the first phase of apartments, which is, if you guys can see my mouse, that's this one right here. It's labeled as building A5. It's directly west of the future Bruce Company building, and then the Bruce Company existing building sits about right in here. So this is the first phase of the, the 19-acre master redevelopment. So this building obviously is an L-shaped building. It has approximately 99 units. There's a mix of studios, 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, and 3 bedrooms in the building. There's 84 underground parking stalls and 21 surface parking stalls. So we're looking at right around 105 total parking stalls. The 84 underground parking stalls come from, if you guys can all see this dotted line right here, the underground level of parking exceeds the L-shaped building footprint. So that's how we are able to accommodate more parking stalls for this building. And the idea behind that is, we want the whole Bruce Company redevelopment to be an urban community, where it's not just a sea of parking on, all these green spaces and all the extra land. So we want to try to keep as much parking underground as possible. And this is, to avoid, like I said, avoid the sea of parking, especially, the Bruce Company, they have underground parking in their building. The entrance is right here, right? And so the idea is that hopefully, we're still looking into this, but we'd be able to connect the Bruce Company's underground parking to this first phase of apartments underground parking, and then possibly even to the apartments to the north of it. So connect all that underground parking. And like I mentioned, we want to avoid the sea of parking, want to make it an urban community with, plenty of green space. Bruce Company's competitors, the big box stores, Menards, Home Depot, you go to those stores, it's just a massive sea of parking. Even some other mixed use multifamily developments in the area, it's either all the surface area is either covered by stormwater ponds or surface parking. So that's the concept behind that. The road to the south of it is, I think most of you guys know, is planned to be a public road right there. And then to the west, that'll be a private road. So the building amenities, we're looking at this specific building, phase one, having a fitness and a yoga room. So a dog wash and a grooming station, probably in the basement somewhere, a bike repair room, bike storage. We might possibly have some rentable storage units for residents that need extra storage. We're looking at putting in a conference room and business center, a game room, and a library just on staggered floors, because there's that dead space in the center of the corner there that we can fill with amenity space. And then the goal, of the master plan development is to put different amenities in different buildings, so that residents that live in this building, that building may have a golf simulator or a large club room or large outdoor patio grilling station area, whereas this building would have say a hot tub, or well, I guess the hot tub and the pool are down there, but say conference rooms or work from home offices, business centers, so that residents can go to whichever building they want to for the intended amenity they want to use. The building will have, in terms of green and sustainable features, so we'll be focused on energy certified. Our architects do that from the outset. So it's just it'll be a higher than normal efficient building. It will be capable. We will have the capacity to put solar on the rooftop. We put energy efficient stainless steel appliances in, energy efficient windows. We'll have ample bike parking on site. And then something we've been doing recently in all of our multifamily buildings is installing 30% of the parking stalls in the underground garage will have electric vehicle charging stations. And then we'll pre-wire 100% of the parking stalls to accommodate electric vehicle charging stations in the future. Because it seems, you see more and more electric vehicles on the road every day. So in terms of construction with this building, the key to actually building it is to limit the disruptions to the Bruce Company's existing business as much as we can. The Bruce Company currently uses this area as their plant and sales yard, their retail yard. So where you'd go outside and grab the plants, or I think they have a mulch and stone pickup area in there. But the idea behind construction is to limit the disruptions for them. Also, since the building has an extended underground building footprint, this would actually have to be the first phase of construction. And then the Bruce Company building would have a staggered start shortly after that. So that, an apartment takes 12 months, the Bruce Company building may only take 9 months. So that these two buildings would come online at the same time, so that the Bruce Company could use their sales yard right in here while the apartment's up and running. Let's see, slide down a few slides. So this rendering wasn't in your packet. I got these updated renderings yesterday, and I think they look a little bit, there's a little bit more to them. They look a little nicer. So the building design, and I wrote this in the cover letter, but was really intended, this building's design is intended to set the tone for all the subsequent phases. So somewhat consistency on site. And I'm not saying that they all have to be, Lego blocks and look exactly like each other, but somewhat, matching design features on each building. This one, so we started off with a more industrial look. We had looked at it was the Ironworks Hotel in Indiana, and that's kind of where the design started from. And it's just supposed to look like a rehabilitated old industrial historic building. So you can see that with, arched windows, square windows, there'll be soldier posting above the windows, lots of use of brick and whatnot. And then we'll come back in the final SIP submittal with the final colors and siding types, all that good stuff. But I wanted to leave the building design, talk about this last, because as we were going through the design process, we originally started with this industrial building look, and we were looking at other designs, and there was one other one that we really liked, and I wanted to show it to you guys because we're kind of open. This is a 19-acre master redevelopment. There's going to be a lot of people driving through this area and seeing all these buildings, and we want, I guess, some direction from the Plan Commission on which way to take the design. So we have, obviously, this is the design concept we submitted for this concept review, but we also looked at a design, something like this, a lot different than the industrial look. To me, this is more like a modern mountain-esque building design. I'll leave the adjectives for that up to Randy, he's the architect, but I wanted to bring it up to you guys to get your guys' input. We're fine going either direction with design. We like both of them. We've talked at length about both of them and couldn't come to a decision. So I kind of wanted to open up the floor to all of you just to get some input on this building.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jake. So I will start, and I will think that I'm very impressed with the amenities and green structure features which you have. And amenities, you even have a library, which is really wonderful. You have a 99 units there, so that's a great start. I think that's going to make a huge difference and will attract a lot of people because having a library makes a huge difference. So and my question would be, at what floor would that be? Of course, that's probably for the details. And the second part, which I like, is the green features. And even you have the bike stands and all of those things there. So as far as the design is concerned, I think that would be Randy and the others who probably would have a more input on that one. So I think your revised version which you had shown today of the Ironworks Hotel in Indianapolis, that actually looks quite nice. But I don't know how in the final analysis it would look like. The other one does look interesting, but I think that will be, you have to look that which is going to go well with the people who are going to lease it, rent it, so that you probably have to make those business decisions as well. That the other one does look set up a little bit wacky and interesting, but I don't know which one would be, which one will fit in there. So overall, I like it. Looks really good. Okay, please raise your hands. I don't see. I'm sure that Randy would like to. John Schaefer, John, and then Randy. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, just a general comment about the two. I think I like the old factory look better. This building design, your second one, looks to me like a standalone structure that would look very nice if it was the only building. But given that it's going to be one of 5 or 6, it seems a little too busy and a little too out in front. And given, we're sort of near the downtown. So just if you're looking for a vote, I definitely vote for the old factory look.
I appreciate that feedback.
Randy? And then Chris.
Yeah, I've got a couple of comments. I'll leave the architecture for a bit here. Jake, one of the things I think is going to be important to make this development successful is to, on the first floor units, because of the relationship between the parking and the street to the building, it'd be nice to have some direct entries to the units on the first floor. Now, rather than have to go into a main entrance to the building and then back into your unit, to be able to go directly, have a private entry, I think would make the parking areas and the streets just a little bit more alive. I'd like you guys to at least discuss that and think about that a little bit. And I know that the Bruce Company is going to be interested in really showcasing the landscaping on this project, and I think making sure that we have enough tree islands in the parking area and enough trees, just inside the sidewalk there to create some shade and some canopy, I think will be important as well. Jake, can you talk about what you know about how the surface of that courtyard is going to be treated? On your master plan? It shows all as green, but it's all going to be parking area below that. So have you guys talked about that?
Yeah, so I'll address your two of your questions. The direct entries, we're still working on the first floor elevation and grades and everything, but we do plan on having walkout units on the first floor there. I think that's big for residents who have dogs. It just makes their life a ton easier.
Yeah.
And we actually even hopefully plan to have walkout units on this side as well, but they would just go out to a first floor patio, and then the Bruce Company's landscaped area would be fenced in. So in terms of the Bruce Company's retail sales yard. Oh, do you have a question?
Yeah. So what is fenced in this drawing that we're seeing right now? What area would be actually fenced in?
Yeah. So I could probably draw it. So their sales yard. So this is the Bruce Company building.
Mm-hmm.
This is the greenhouse. Their sales yard actually extends all the way back in here. So the fenced in area would probably be something like all the way back up into there, including this area. So there would be little patios for, first floor units right here, but they're not going to be able to access the sales yard. So the plan is for this to all be open for the Bruce Company and people to go in and out of the greenhouse, in and out of their retail area, etc. And this diagram doesn't show where a fence would actually be, but I think within that Bruce Company's SIP diagram, it had a fence laid out somewhere in there. But to talk about, what's above the on the Bruce Company's actual sales area, because the parking lot's below here, it'll either be some sort of, precast plank or post-tension concrete. I don't know the layer in between there, but the Bruce Company has talked about, putting some turf down, and then a lot of their sales and retail area, if you walk through it now, is wooden tables with plants, on top of it. There'll be, it'll be more of like a display yard for them than a green space. And when I say that, they want to make it feel as, you're walking through a very beautifully landscaped green area, although it won't necessarily be grass on the ground.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then how about between the fenced area and the apartment building? Would that be all hardscape or?
Hardscape likely. I think on a few, we haven't really gotten to the details on that, but a few of our past project, we put turf down there for, dogs, but it'd likely be hardscaped or a combination of hardscape and turf.
When you get to that, I think that, working on those details and making that courtyard as livable as possible, part of the success of this plan was having that courtyard area that was going to act as display area, but also act as open space for the apartment buildings. Mm-hmm. And, having it fenced is, I totally understand why it has to happen. It's a little bit, it certainly takes away from that open space feel. But, whatever's left that isn't fenced, I think really needs to, you need to think about how to landscape that, how to soften that as much as possible, and maybe create a landscape edge rather than just straight fence. Maybe there's a landscape edge at the around the Bruce Company yard.
Yeah, absolutely. And Seth has in the Bruce Company, they have plans for that to make the fence less like a standard chain link fence, and that's all. It'll be dressed up really nice, and they have great plans for that. And then the idea of the green space, this will be for the the Bruce Company, obviously. So if residents want to go in there, they just have to go through the store. But this courtyard area will be green. We haven't really gotten into the details on that, but that'll be a green area for all of these residents to enjoy as well. So, but I
So,
appreciate the feedback, Randy.
yep. And then I like the idea of having the underground parking structures connected if that's doable. The site seems flat enough that would be possible. And it might even, then you might be able to maybe minimize the number of entry points into the garage just to clean up the site plan even more. Something to think about. As far as the exterior architecture, I'll say that both buildings I think are attractive. I'm not keen on the circle top windows, but I think the architecture of that building, this view is quite attractive. I think the other building, the other design option with the more timber is very interesting and a little bit certainly different, and might I don't know, give this whole Bruce Company development, a different feel, so that it isn't maybe similar to so much other architecture that you see. There's a challenge to doing multiple versions, not just of this building, but something that would go with the same theme. I think JLA could pull it off, it would be attractive. So I'm not going to say one way or another. I think they're both doable. If I were to have a preference, I'd probably like to see a little bit of a change. That's all.
Thank you, Randy. The next one is Gretchen. Then there was a Mike Slavish stand up, and then Elder Dan Ramsey. Gretchen?
Yes, I had a couple of concerns about the landscaping. I was hoping you could speak to in terms of its usage. It wasn't obvious to me where a family with children would be able to access some free play space, or families with dogs. I know that they could just walk out and go for a walk, but was there any plan in sort of the master plan for a dog run or playground area for families or people with dogs?
Yeah, so like I kind of talked about with Randy, although this courtyard area will be used for the Bruce Company, eventually once this plan is built out, there will be a large courtyard area here as well. And then not only that, but this is going to be a 3-acre public park all in here, this green area. So I think there will be plenty of area for, walking your dog and green space, whatnot. Also, not only that, but the Pheasant Branch Creek Trail is just on the other side of Pheasant Branch Creek. You can only see the portion of it right here, but just, a minute or two walk away. So it's all nearby and it's all accessible. And I think that Pheasant Branch Creek Trail obviously is heavily used by, bikers, pedestrians, dog walkers, dog joggers, everything. So.
Sure. And so for families with smaller children that need to keep an eye on them, or they would rather have them in one more consolidated place than off on a trail, would there be an option for a playground on site, or perhaps an indoor playground for the cold winters, the inclement weather, and the hot summers where children could play somewhere?
Yeah, and we can certainly look into that as an amenity in one of our buildings, an indoor playground or indoor type room like that. In terms of an outdoor playground, I would defer to Abby, Mark, and the Parks Committee and what their plans are for the future public park. I'm sure it'll have some sort of play structure for young children.
Yeah, I'm sure it would too, Jake. Our parks director is pretty adamant that when we acquire new parkland, we go through a public process and get feedback from residents who live nearby to help us develop the plan for it. So that hasn't been done yet, but I would be willing to bet that there would be some sort of playground.
Thanks, Abby. The other question I had about the landscaping was it looked like there would be a lot more impermeable surface, and particularly with the parking underneath. Do you have a plan for how to allow drainage not to be running off directly into the creek here?
So we haven't gotten deeply into the civil and stormwater design yet. Where am I here? But I think, you know, when we get there, they'll take a look at that and make sure it's not draining off into the creek. And I don't know the stormwater standards very well, but I think we have to keep it within all the stormwater within our site.
Gretchen, you have more questions or you're done?
In terms of the architecture, I think that I prefer the first design in terms of its classic appeal. I feel that it will look a little less dated over time, but I do see the appeal of the second design in terms of having a bit more shade and shelter from weather. These balconies are completely open, so those are my two comments on the style. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate the feedback.
Okay, so the next one is Mike Slavish. Do you want to say something, or you took your hand down? Otherwise, Elder Dan Ramsey.
Yeah, I'll just say a few things, Mayor.
Sure.
You know, I guess I would echo what's been said so far, and I would agree with Gretchen and John that in terms of design, Jake, I think I prefer the first one. I think both designs are great. I think this feels more like what would be appropriate, you know, here in Middleton, but that's just my opinion. You know, in terms of the kind of the courtyard in the back, I think I expressed this concern before. I think it's great that we have all that green space to the south. I mean, I think that'll be really appealing for the project and the development as a whole. You know, having been to a lot of garden centers, as we all have, you know, you think about, I think the intentions are always good as to what that will look like. But, you know, as materials stack up, as bags of mulch stack up, you know, I'm from a marketing standpoint, which is really more your challenge than ours, is, you know, what that area ends up looking like long term. My preference would be to see it scaled back a bit, so you have more green space between the building and that courtyard. Or you find a way to soften that fence edge, you know, as it lines up to the inside L of the building there. And I know we'll get another look at this when you guys bring that back specifically as to what kind of fencing material you'll use, but that would be my only concern, just from a marketing standpoint, what that looks like long term. But those are my comments.
Yeah, and that stuff, you know, as the British company plans for this transition and just talking with them, they're you know, they're working through these little items as we kind of move forward. But just to, I don't know the whole story, but you know, the British company is moving their field operations and their mulch material, gravel, that kind of stuff out to their Verona location. So hopefully we can avoid, you know, I'm sure there will be that sort of material on site, but hopefully we can avoid as much of that, you know, in this landscape yard as possible. So it'll hopefully look a little cleaner. But yeah, when we come back, I'm sure we'll have more, you know, to show you guys. But I appreciate your feedback.
Yep, fair enough. Thanks.
Elder Dan Ramsey.
Thank you, Mayor. Jake, I appreciate the 30% electric charging stations and the fact that you're going to wire all the parking spots for that. That's very forward thinking. I appreciate that. The solar capable, do you have plans in the fairly short term to put solar on that building like you have some of your other buildings, or has there been any discussion with that?
Yeah, so we plan on putting solar on the building. Just like we have on most of our other buildings in Middleton. We just haven't, you know, the architectural plans aren't to that point yet where we have roof plans and we can plan for the solar.
You have to kind of decide on a design before, which leads me into my other point. I appreciate Gretchen and John and Mike's comment about the more traditional look. I kind of like the second look because of the fact that it's different. And if you go around, drive around Middleton and you look at a lot of our building here in the last 10 years or so, it all has a very similar look. And I've had comments from some residents saying, boy, everything looks the same all the time. And so I appreciate the second design because it's different. It has a little bit of different interests. So from my standpoint, and I'm not an architect, but from my standpoint, I kind of like the little bit different approach.
Yeah, I appreciate the feedback.
Okay, other questions or comments? So I have a question for Jake and Abby. So Jake and Abby, so city is going to be doing work with the creek, and so Abby, we needed some of the area, some right away or something. Do you know where that is? Because it's important to take care of that as soon as possible, because if we don't do it now, it isn't going to happen. So where are we with that?
Well, the permanent land dedication will be completed as part of the plat, and that was a contingency of approval of the GIP, but the Bruce Company has agreed to grant the city a temporary limited easement so that we can start work on that prior to getting the plat approved. And I think that Jake, I'm not sure if it was you or someone else with your team that was working with Rich Wyatt in our engineering department to get the legal description created to put into the TLE, but it sounded like that was moving ahead.
Oh, okay. So Jake, so you're aware of it, that's moving ahead, because we are already bidding that project. I think it already went for bidding, and so we have a meeting with FEMA next Tuesday, and we are hoping that we will have more information and like to move ahead with this project and get it done. So just to make sure that all the ducks are in order for that project to move forward. So as Adler Ramsey said, I like that 30% of the underground parking stalls will have electric vehicle parking station. That's really nice, and it will be wired that way. It could be all 100, and you're using LED lights, and that's all looks good. So, and Gretchen's bringing the idea that having set up some playground during winter. I think that's a very good idea. Of course, it will be up to the Parks Department. When you have that many apartments, it will be really good that if we have such a structure that would be for the smaller kids. I think that would be a nice thing. So anyway, I like a lot of the features which you have, as I mentioned earlier, especially library, and that would help, and so many other amenities and green features. So I think I'm not an architect, so I'm going to let the others speak about that one. So any further questions or comments for Jake? Okay, well, I guess, Jake, do you have any questions for us?
Oh, I don't. I appreciate the feedback from everybody, though, and it's good to get. I appreciate these concept reviews because it's good to get your guys' input and feedback before we really plow forward ahead with the design and the building itself. So I appreciate it. Yeah, my last comment would be that it's a Bruce company and they are landscaping. So you want to make sure that it's really, when it comes to landscaping, it stands out because it will be to their credit. So I think it will speak volumes about the Bruce company. Randy Bruce.
Sorry, yeah, just one last comment, Jake. When you bring this back, I think there's been a lot of discussions about that courtyard and the yard space. Maybe illustrating that a little bit more realistically would be helpful for everybody. Right now, it's all just looks like a green landscaped yard space. And if it's all hardscaped and you're going to put some landscaped areas on top of that or show areas on top of that, I think it'd just be better for us to get a better feel for it and the design team to start addressing that as well. So.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll come back with some more details on all that stuff for the SIP submittal. I appreciate that, Randy.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, any other quick questions or comments for Jake before we move on to the next item? Well, thank you, Jake, and thank you everyone on the Plan Commission for your comments. And that's, you got enough of input now. So, okay, we move on to the item number 2. It is to set a public hearing date for a zoning ordinance amendment to add neighborhood park zoning district. And need a motion to set this public hearing for Tuesday, June 14th at 7 p.m.
Bruce will move.
Slavish will second.
Okay, any other questions or comments? So we are setting the public hearing date. All those in favor of the motion to set a public hearing date for a zoning ordinance amendment to add neighborhood park zoning districts, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Motion passes unanimously. We are on to item number 3. Set a public hearing date for rezoning from single family resident R1 to neighborhood park NP 8 parks: Fireman's Park, Meadows Park, Middleton Station, Parisi Park, Parkside Heights Park, Stonefield Park, Sticker Park, and Woodside Heights Park. Need a motion to set a public hearing for Tuesday, June 14th at 7 p.m.
Schaefer will move.
Need a second?
Bruce will
Ramsey.
second.
Bruce will second it. Now, Abby, how could you have both the public hearing at 7? Do you think that we should have this 7:05 or something?
We were just trying to avoid the situation we get into sometimes where the first item only takes 2 minutes and then we're kind of like sitting
Oh,
around
okay.
waiting 3 more minutes to get to the
Okay.
next.
Okay.
I don't anticipate this being, a
Okay.
hot topic where we have a lot of people speaking.
Okay.
I could be wrong.
Okay, so it's okay to have 7 for both. Okay.
Yep.
All right, any questions or comments? Otherwise, all those in favor of the motion to set a public hearing date for rezoning from single family resident R1 to neighborhood park NP 8 parks, which is Fireman's Park, Meadows Park, Milton Station, Parisi Park, Parkside Heights Park, Stonefield Park, Sticker Park, and Woodside Heights Park for Tuesday, June 14th at 7 p.m. Say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Wow. We are on a record time. So unless somebody has story to tell, need a motion to adjourn.
That is a record. I move to adjourn.
Okay. Second by John Schaefer, looks like it. So,
Yeah.
okay, all those in favor of the motion to adjourn say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Motion passes. Okay, on
Good
to
night,
break.
all.
Thank you.
And
Thanks,
good night.
everyone.
Good night.
Bye.
Good night and enjoy your evening.